Hare Krishna. I welcome everyone for reading of Sri Prabhupada LILAMRITA. We are in chapter 3, a very nice saintly, saintly person, right? That's the title. So we are almost end up this chapter. Let's pray. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbisesa Sunyavadi Paschyata Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Sri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, can you all hear me? Sorry, let me. Okay. So we will begin here, continue where we left. Aware, in summary, what the last where we did is, at night Aware would go home to his wife and children. Radharani was a chaste and faithful wife who spent her days cooking, cleaning, and caring for her two children, but she was not inclined to share her husband's interest in things spiritual. He would not convey to her he could not convey to her his feelings about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So we read about his life in Allahabad. His father and sister, his sister's son, they moved. He spread his business as for Dr. Bose. Right? Yeah. Partner. Now, Aware, his wife, their two children, Gaurmohan, Aware's younger brother, Krishna Charan, Aware's widowed sister, Rajeshwari, and her son, Tulsidas, all went together to an Allahabad studio for a family portrait. The photo shows Aware in his late 20s. He is thin and dark, with a full mustache. His forehead is broad, his eyes dark and clear. He wears a white kurta and dhoti and plain dark slippers. He sits in a chair, his wife standing behind him, an attractive young woman in a white khadi saree with a line of color on the border. A slim arm rests behind Aware's head on the back of his chair, a small hand gripping the edge of the chair. Her left hand hangs by her side, gripped in a fist. She is barefoot with his left hand. Aware steadies his 2-year-old boy. What is the Pacha? Prayagraj, a glaring infant on his lap. The boy seeming to squirm, his baby legs and bare feet dangling by his mother's knee. Aware seems a bit amused by the son on his lap. Aware is a handsome Indian man, his wife an attractive woman, both young. I think we have seen this picture, right? Many of you, some of you have seen this picture. Yeah, it's black and white. It's the family picture is referring to. It is there in. I'm sure it's in LILAMRITA also. It is there. So, so that's the description of the whole big family who all were staying. Also behind Aware stands his nephew Tulsi and his brother Krishna Charan. Sitting on the far right is Aware's sister Rajeshwari, dressed in a widow's white saree, holding Sulakshamana, Aware's daughter. So Aware's daughter's name is Sulakshaman, on her lap. Sulakshaman is also squirming, her foot jutting towards the photographer. In the center sits Gaurmohan. His face is shivered and his whole body is emaciated with age. He is also wearing a white kurta and dhoti. His hands seem to be moving actively on his lap, perhaps with palsy. He's short and small and old. It's mentioned about his father born on there. So I hope I don't have to describe much. I cannot describe much anyway in this. Gaurav?
Abhay traveled frequently throughout northern India, intent on expanding his sales. It was not unusual for him to be gone for a few days in a week, and sometimes a week or more at a time, as he traveled from one city to another. The pharmaceutical industry was just beginning in India, and doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies were eager to buy from the competent, gentlemanly agent who called on them from Bose's laboratory of Calcutta. He would travel by train and stay in hotels. He liked the feeling of freedom from home that traveling afforded, but the real drive was servicing accounts and getting new ones. That was his business. Riding in a third class unreserved compartment was often uncomfortable. The only seats were benches, which were often dirty, and passengers were permitted to crowd on without reservations. But that is how Abhay traveled, hundreds of miles every week. As the train moved between towns, he would see the numberless small villages and the country land that spread out before him on the either side of the tracks. At every stop, he would hear the cries of the tea vendors as they walked alongside the train windows. Chai, chai, tea. The British had introduced it, and now millions of Indians were convinced that they could not get through the morning without their little glass of hot tea. As a strict Vaishnava, Abhay never touched it, but his wife, with much to his displeasure, was becoming a regular tea drinker.
Hmm.
So, in summary, it says that how Abhay, for his job, is traveling throughout northern India for his pharmaceutical company, and he would travel by train. And even though it was dirty, crowded, and uncomfortable, he would still travel for hundreds of miles every day. And it says how at
It's every day.
100 miles
Hmm.
every week, my bad, every
Yeah.
week, and how it would also explain how at every stop there would be vendors who would sell tea. And Abhay, as a strict Vaishnava, never drank tea, but his wife is a regular tea drinker.
Yeah, it's there in passengers were permitted to crowd on without reservations. That's the and another thing is British started. It is British mercy to give tea, and this is a very important point. We can do ask Indians give up everything, but it's very painful to give up tea and coffee. For Ajay, you can read.
Although Abhay was accustomed to dressing as a European businessman, he never compromised his strict Vaishnava principles. Most of his fellow Bengalis had taken up fish eating, but Abhay was always careful to avoid non-Vaishnava foods, even in hotels. Once at a vegetarian hotel, the Empire Hindu Hotel in Bombay, he was served onions, and sometimes hotel people tried to serve him mushrooms, garlic, and even eggs. But all of these he carefully avoided. Keeping a small semblance of his home routine, he would take his bath early in the morning with cold water. He followed this routine year-round, and when in Saharanpur, he did so during the bitter cold weather. The hotel keeper was greatly surprised. Abhay conversed with many people in his travels. A doctor in Dhaka told him that on his way to the office, he had passed a farmer talking to a friend, and could tell by the sound of the farmer's cough that the farmer would die within a few hours. Another doctor told Abhay that he had just come from seeing a pneumonia patient who was defying nature and medical science by continuing to live. He met a Muhammadan doctor in Gaya who lamented that he had just lost a patient, although he had given the man the very best medicine. Such accounts from men of the medical profession confirmed Abhay's conviction that without God's sanction, no one could be saved. Not that he ever thought of his medical sales as philanthropic work. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had already convinced him that the only way to save a person was by giving him Krishna consciousness. Abhay's medical products were strictly for business.
Hmm. You want to summarize?
Yeah. So it mostly just talks about some of the challenges he faced, as a businessman, and how he stuck to his Vaishnava principles by maintaining a vegetarian diet, avoiding garlic and onions, despite people trying to get him to eat it, and also just how he maintained the routine of cold showers. And it's my understanding he maintained that routine till his disappearance finally. But Abhay it also gets into just how he saw how despite that he was in medical sales, he realized, that it doesn't really matter, right? The medicine can't save you, but Krishna can. So
Nice. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, maybe my internet. My internet is bad.
I can hear you. Look, you sound fine.
Oh, is it? Okay, that's good. Somehow it got missed. It probably didn't record well. Anyway, Babita, can you read?
Yes, Prabhu. On one business trip, it was in 1925, he traveled through Agra, only 40 miles south of Vrindavana. Taking the opportunity, he made his first visit to holy Vrindavana, fulfilling his childhood aspiration. He loved the sight of Vrindavana, but he could spend only a day or two. Even a single day away from his sales work could be critical. As a reverent pilgrim, Abhay visited a few temples, especially the principal temples established by the followers of Lord Chaitanya, but he had to move on. There were also risks in traveling. Once he was sitting in the train compartment in Mathura station when a monkey suddenly entered and took away his belongings. Early one morning before dawn, while he was on his way to Kanpur in a two-wheeled horse carriage, the horse was going at a fast trot when suddenly it hit a large heap of rubbish in the middle of the road. The carriage turned upside down. Horse, driver, and carriage all landed in a heap, and Abhay was thrown into the air. But he landed unharmed, feeling as though he had just changed to another seat. Because Abhay sat because Abhay sat but said nothing, the driver thought he had been knocked unconscious and became anxious. The passenger was all right, however, and the driver considered it a miracle, since the cart had so violently ejected him. Abhay took it that he had been saved by Krishna, and he remembered similar incidents, starting with his childhood, when his clothing had caught on fire. Krishna had always protected him.
Nice.
So these paragraphs they tell us how what happened when Abhay was traveling when he went to Agra. Um, he was very close to Vrindavan, and that was the first time he visited the holy place. It was his childhood aspiration as well, and but he could only spend a day or two, just a couple of days, because even one day away from his work was critical for his earning. And once he was in Vrindavana, he visited the principal primary temples which have been established by Sri Lord Chaitanya. But he could not visit anything else. He just had to move on to his work. And then the traveling also had so many risks because one day in train compartment in Mathura, a monkey came and took away his belongings. And another day when he was in Kanpur in a carriage, two-wheeled horse carriage, the horse struck some rubbish and everything fell down. It became upside down, and it was a kind of a big jolt, I guess. And but Abhay, nothing happened to him. He did not feel anything. He was not harmed at all, which was like a big surprise for the driver because he thought Abhay was unconscious. So in this case, Abhay realized that he has been saved by Krishna, and also he started remembering all similar incidents that happened during his childhood. They tell us about when his clothing had caught fire, and I remember there was a time when he was struck by some disease when the doctor said he had to
Yeah, typhoid.
Typhoid, yes, yes. So even that case too, yeah. And there was another disease I remember, which even his mother had contracted, but both of them came out safe. So there were many cases when during his childhood when Krishna had helped him become healthy again.
Very nice. Thank you. Prasanthi?
For 5 years, Abhay travelled widely out of Allahabad, and when he was home, he put in long hours at the dispensary. But he also spent time with his wife and played with his children. Srila Prabhupada. When my son was about 2 years old, he was very naughty, always doing some mischief. My friends used to visit me and call my son Pacha. Pacha, if you sit down for 1 minute silently, I will give you a gift. But the boy failed. He could not sit down even for a minute. There was a table fan, and Pacha was wanting to touch it. I said, no, no, don't touch. But again, he tried to touch it. So my friend said, just lower the speed and let him touch it. So I unplugged the fan and then he touched it. It did not harm him, but it hit his finger with a loud noise. Tongue. And then he would not touch again. I would ask him touch again, but he would not. As soon as his daughter Sulakshmana could speak, he began teaching her the Bengali translation of the prayer Guru Ashtakam, which begins, the spiritual master is receiving benedictions from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, the spiritual master extinguishes the blazing fire of material life, of repeated birth and death. So Prabhupada recalls his incident with his son when he was very small and playful. He wanted to put his finger in the table fan, which is on, and then he unplugged it and then let the child put his finger. So by experience, he learned what to do, what not to do. So and also, his daughter Sulakshana learned the Guruvashtakam. Um, I don't know if this is similar to a Sishtashtakam of that we learned in Bhagavatam. There were 8 slokas, so it is similar to that. It is completely same. Um, so the spiritual master is receiving benedictions from the ocean of mercy, and he is the one who helps us to come out of the repeated birth and death. That's all. Can you hear me?
Yeah, looks like he's nope. Looks like he's going. Yeah, froze.
Yeah.
And there he's back. You're on mute, Krishna.
You're on mute, Prabhuji.
Yeah. I'm sorry, my internet is very bad today. Looks like it's kicking me out.
Would you
that a lot of money?
Say, would you prefer I share my screen? Would that be easier, or?
You can share, yeah, if you like. But the only thing is, recording is in my
Yeah, then it won't record. Actually, no, I think it still will record on.
Oh yeah, it will record. Yeah. Then you can go ahead. You can share.
Yeah, give me 1 second to pull up the text.
You can present. You can continue your narration. Sorry if I missed.
Actually, I finished, Prabhuji.
Finished. Okay, I'm glad I'll be free from this. Thank you. You said some Guruvashtakam or Sikshashtakam?
Yeah, Guruvashtakam.
Okay.
Are both are same, Prabhuji?
No. Guruvashtakam is eight prayers to spiritual master. Sikshashtakam is 8 main teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Okay.
Gurvashtakam is glorifying the spiritual master. Okay, so who is next now? Sai Kiran Prabhu?
Okay, Hare Krishna. Except for his obligatory travels, Abhay stayed at home and satisfied his family. He tended diligently to his business and it prospered. It was Kumbh Mela, January 1928. Bhakti Pradeepa Tirth Maharaj of the Gaudiya Mutt had come to Allahabad with a few men. One day he walked unannounced into Prayag pharmacy, and all of a sudden Abhay was seeing them again after so many years. Oh, these are the people I saw before, he thought. Gaudiya Mutt. Yes, come in. Bhakti Pradeepa Tirth Swami was the same sannyasi who had visited Narendranath Mullik in Calcutta, a visit that had led to Abhay's going to visit Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Folding his palms in a humble gesture, standing before Abhay in simple saffron khadi robes, his shaven head with a tuft of shika in the back, his forehead marked with Vaishnava Tilaka, Tirth Maharaj said to Abhay, "We are new here. We are going to establish a temple in Allahabad. We have heard your name, so we have come to you. Please help us." So here it was the Kumbh Mela in January 1928. Bhakti Pradeepa Tirth Maharaj of the Gaudiya Mutt had come to Allahabad. They visited the Prayag pharmacy, and Srila Abhay Charan recalled that they were the part of the Gaudiya Mutt when he had met them back in Calcutta, when his friend Narendranath Mullik took him to meet Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So it was actually through Tirtha Swami Maharaj that Narendranath Mullik came to know about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Prabhupada paid his obeisances to them, and Tirth Maharaj said to Abhay that they were new here and they wanted his help because they were looking to establish a temple in Allahabad.
Nice.
Abhay was joyful. Yes, I'll help you. He contributed what money he could and then introduced Tirtha Maharaja to Dr. Ghosh, who also contributed. Abhay invited the Gaudiya Mutt devotees to come to his home and hold a bhajana and lecture. His wife would cook prasadam. They accepted, but when they arrived, there was a misunderstanding. Gaur Mohan, who was invalid, was staying in his room upstairs. "Please come down," Abhay called. "There is a meeting of the Gaudiya Mutt." Gaur Mohan came downstairs, but when he saw the sadhus, he mistook them for impersonalists from a non-devotional mission. He had not heard correctly what Abhay had said. Gaur Mohan took his seat, but he observed the saffron cloth men sullenly and even made a critical remark. Abhay, who was enlivened at the opportunity to associate with the Vaishnavas and hear from them Krishna Katha, could not understand his father's behavior. Then, as soon as Bhakti Pradeepa Tirtha Swami began his lecture, Gaur Mohan understood. "Oh, they are Vaishnavas," he cried. Old and invalid as he was, he immediately fell down at their feet. "I misunderstood you. Sir, I thought you were sannyasis from another mission. I am glad to meet you." Here, when they asked to build a temple over there, he was very joyful and he said, "I'll help you," and he contributed whatever money he could, and he introduced him to Dr. Ghosh also, who can also help them to build the temple. And Abhay invited Gaudiya Mutt devotees to their home to hold a bhajan and lecture, and said his wife will make prasadam for them. When they all came, in the beginning, his father misunderstood that they were impersonalists from a non-devotional mission, so he did not pay much interest when they came. Later, when What's his name? When one devotee named Bhakti Pradeepa Tirtha Swami began his lecture, then Gaur Mohan understood they are real Vaishnavas, and he fell down at their feet and asked for their forgiveness.
Thank you. Who is next? Swati Mataji,
Hare
can
Krishna.
you read?
Yes, Prabhuji. After Kumbh Mela, Pradipatirthi Swami left, but 5 or 6 brahmacharis, disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, stayed on in Allahabad. Maintaining a small Matha headquarters, they worshipped the deity, held an evening program of kirtan and lectures, and preached actively to the local people. The devotee in charge, Atulananda Brahmachari, would visit the home of Allahabad cities, trying to solicit the subscriber members for the Matha. For Matha. For half a rupee per month, a person would receive a subscription to Gaudiya Matha magazine. In the course of his door-to-door soliciting, Atulananda knocked onto the door of Abhaya Charandi. Abhay received him very hospitably and offered him some rice and fruits. Abhay was very receptive to the philosophy and realized discussions with Atulananda, who made it a point to visit Mr. D repeatedly and speak with him about Lord Chaitanya and Bhagavad Gita. Abhay also inquired into the recent activities of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. By now, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta has established the Gaudiya printing works in Calcutta and had begun to publish the Srimad Bhagavatam in several volumes with his own annotations. He has also published an edited version of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavatam from his center in Dakha. He had opened centers in Bhubaneswar, Madras, and Puri. So here they are trying to explain about how they created the Mata in Allahabad and how they worshipped the deities and how they used to give the lectures to the local people and publish the books as much as they can and try to sell to the people based on the subscription. So I felt that this subscription is not the new thing for this generation. It is there from like past at least 80-90 years. And they already pay us the path of knocking the doors and publishing the books to everybody. So that's how they had preached Abhay too, and he got to know about. He had the discussions with Atulananda about Lord Chaitanya and Bhagavad Gita. And here they even explaining about where Abhay Charan already started publishing the Bhagavad Gitas in several volumes.
You mean Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur?
Oh, by now Srila sorry. By now Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was established the Gaudiya printing.
And few centers already out of 60%. Very nice. Yeah, Vijayanand Prabhu.
With Abhay's interest was insatiable. Atulananda told him how in 1925 Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had led a big procession circumambulating the holy land of Navadvipa with deities riding on the backs of gorgeously decorated elephants and with devotees from all parts of India attending. Envious professional priests who opposed Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's acceptance of disciples from all castes had employed a gang to help them hurl bricks and rocks on the procession. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had continued undaunted. In 1926, he had toured throughout India preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya. He had also installed deities in the large temple of Sri Chaitanya Math in Mayapur, and a year ago he had begun publishing the magazine Sajjana Toshani in 3 languages, including an English edition called The Harmonist. After several visits and hours of discussion on the activities and philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Atulananda brought me to the Allahabad ashrama. Shortly thereafter, the Mata relocated to a rented house on South Malacha Street near Rambagh, just a short walk from Abbe's house. Now it was possible for Abbe to visit every evening after work. He would attend the Mata, where he would play the mridanga, surprising the brahmacharis with his already developed mridanga playing skills. He sang bhajanas with them and sometimes took the lead part in the congregational singing. He would also bring important persons from Allahabad to visit the Mata. For the brahmacharis, Abbe seemed to give new life to their ashrama. And for Abbe, new life had come to him in his reunion with the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So these paras continue like the conversation between the Atulananda and Abbe, where Atulananda seems to be explaining a situation like where there was a big procession planned with like nicely decorated elephants in the road, but there are like some people who do not like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and his disciples, so they plan to throw rocks over them during the procession, but still they successfully complete the procession, and it was going on. Like we also saw that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, like how he installed the deities and did the worship, as well as how he established a math in Mayapur, as well as he was publishing a magazine in like 3 languages, including English. And shortly, like the Mata in Allahabad has been relocated, and it was relocated near Abbe's home, and it was becoming very easy for Abbe now, because since the Mata is like near his house, he could visit the Mata daily in the evening after the work, and he used to like play mridanga there, and yeah, all the brahmacharis over there they were very much surprised on seeing how he's playing mridanga and his mridanga skills, and also he joined them in the congregational singing and all the other activities. And so with this new ashrama which is located to his house, he began a new life, and also he enjoyed the reunion with the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
So Allahabad Center seems Prabhupada's primary association, where he started learning and associating in all these cultures. He started visiting regularly. It means that's his temple, just like many of us at this time in Krishna village. Very nice, thank you. Okay, I think it's my turn now. In 1930, Gorman's health took a turn for the worse, and his family members gathered around him, thinking that his end had come. Ava had been in Bombay on business, and it was late when he reached Allahabad and knocked on the door. Gorman told his daughter Rajeshwari, "Open the door, Ava has come." She replied, "No, he's in Bombay." Gorman repeated, "I tell you that he has come." He opened the door. It was about midnight. She went downstairs and opened the door and found that her brother had indeed come. Ava went to his father. "How are you?" "I'm all right," Gorman replied. "You just take rest for the night." The next morning, Ava called the doctor. How your father is living, we don't know. The doctor told him. He has practically no pulse. He has been living without food for several months. Ava asked his father, "What is your wish? Tell me." "Why are you asking?" His father replied. "Has the doctor told you anything?" Ava said, "No, I'm asking because I'm staying in Bombay and you are here. So if you have any wish, any intention, let me know. I'm here. I'm here for you. Gorman told him to give their cow to the Allahabad Gaudiya Mutt. So Abhay took the cow along with her calf and donated them to Matha. Then again he asked his father, um, how have you got any other wish? And again his father asked, has the doctor told you anything? No, I'm simply asking because of my business. I have to go. Then Gorman said, invite all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas of Allahabad and other Vaishnavas also. Let them chant Harinam in the evening, and you supply them with good food. That is my wish. I arranged it, and in the evening the Harinam started. At 11 o'clock, all of them took prasadam and left. That night, Gorman passed away. So Abhay was traveling, and he was most of the time in Bombay, and Gorman is not doing very well. And so when after hearing he came, so even the Gorman would sense his son has come in the middle of the night. Rajeshwari could not accept it, but to his surprise, to her surprise, is found that Abhay had come, and immediately went and see his father. He said, okay, we'll talk in the morning. You just take rest. When he called for the doctor was surprised how this man is surviving. First of all, there's no pulse at all. He's not eaten for so many months. Then Abhay understood his lot. It's time for departing. That's what, as a Vedic culture, we ask if you have any wish. Abhay knew all these things. So he generally last moment also while leaving the body, I hope all of you know that we offer a cow in charity to the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas, right? That's called Godan. We offer a cow in charity to the Brahmanas or Vaishnavas. So he fulfilled the desire and gave the cow and the calf to the ashram. Then again, second wish, he asked any other wish if you have. So he said, invite all the devotees and serve prasadam. What a wonderful departure in that case. Then he left the world. Very nice. Hope this is one of the example we can see how we should aspire our life should be while living.
Abhay felt the loss of his father painfully. His father had given him everything he had ever wanted, had been careful to raise him as a pure Vaishnava, and had always worshipped Radha and Krishna. Although Abhay was a competent young man, he felt lost without his dearmost protector and friend. More than anyone else, Gormohan was the one who had always guided Abhay and treated him as the most special person. Without his father, Abhay now felt hopeless. He suddenly felt the same dependency he had felt as a small boy, but now without his father. One who had always treated him as a pet son, deserving all loving attention, the one who had given him whatever he had wanted, and who had literally prayed to every holy man he met that his son become a great devotee of Srimati Radharani, the best well-wisher was now gone. On the day of Shraddha, 13 days after Shraddha, 13 days after Gormohan passed away, Abhay and his brother posed for a formal photograph. In accordance with the religious custom, the two sons had shaved their heads. The photograph shows Abhay and his brother sitting on either side of a formal portrait of their father. The portrait is on an elevated stand and is surrounded with dark cloth. The picture is nicely framed. Gormohan looks old but so thoughtful and intent. Not so old as in the former portrait where he had looked emaciated with eyes almost dim. So here it's explaining how Abhay felt a great loss in losing his father because his father was his well-wisher, his friend, and he had always supported him and introduced him to devotional service. And whenever a Vaishnava would come to their house, his father would always ask Abhay, his father would always ask the devotees to bless Abhay in becoming a devotee. And after 13 days after Gormohan passed away, Abhay and his brother did the Shraddha, where they both had to shave their heads. And in the picture frame, even though Gormohan had passed away, he looked much younger than in his previous photograph.
Thank you. Ajay, it's your turn.
Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Abai with his shaved head looked like a renounced monk, and his body is covered with the robes of a monk. Simple drapes and broad folds covering the upper and lower parts of his body. He looks quite different than he had in the pictures that was taken in the same place with the same rough carpet on the floor years before. In that picture, with his wife and children gathered around him, he was very much the young householder, surrounded by his responsibilities of family and looking like he knew how to conduct himself well and move energetically in the world. But in this photo, although his children are present, they are seated unattended on the floor. Abai's left hand is on his knee, poised and yet at rest, whereas in the former picture, his left hand had been holding his restless son. Abai's wife is not present. In this picture, Abai looks striking. One cannot tell that he usually has a head of hair and a mustache, which he has only recently shorn for the mournful observation of his father's passing away. Instead, this seems to be his natural appearance. There is a mysterious spiritual air about him, as one might expect in a meditating saint. His look is neither agitated nor cheerful nor sorrowful. It is peaceful and knowing, as if he had suddenly become a sadhu on the day his father had passed away. He looks like the sadhu his father envisioned he would become. He looks as if he is and always was a sadhu and has suddenly been revealed as such on this day. Even by the most casual inspection of the photo, it appears that by shaving his head and dressing in robes with no shirt or shoes, Abai had become a sadhu. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of just, again, just talking about how after his father passed away, there was such a noticeable change in Abai's body and just his overall look. And it kind of, I guess, maybe a little foreshadowing of what was to come in terms of his life after that. But yeah.
Thank you.
That's the end of that chapter, by the way.
Wow, very well. Well, can we move to the next? Anyone wants to say something before we move? Primarily, in summary, I think we discussed about his meeting. It's a big chapter, right? The third chapter. The nice gentleman he met. His meeting with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is like a spiritual foundation. His meeting with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, getting inspired, right? I think he also took initiation, isn't it? Yeah, didn't we hear? Oh, we discussed about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's life a little bit in brief. How he helped his father Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his spiritual man, both passed away. Then they took Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took care of Sajjana Toshinda, Then Prabhupada meets him in, then at what Danga, Alta Danga, with his friend Naren convinced him. Then he was very much inspired. He took his life. He got married. Actually, he was married that time, right? Yeah, he was married that time, and his father suggested that it's good for you, not to and didn't try for another wife. So later he had worked for the business, and then as Dr. Bose, he helped him to work on spreading his business. He moved to Allahabad. He spent all his family members moved kind of stayed with him, and he meets with the Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Math, and Gaudiya Math is working on opening a center, the temple there. And he continues to be busy with his business and everything, but his father passes away. He feels very much separation from his father. And then last description is how he looked for when he shaved his head, and I think mustache. We have the picture of it, very very much. Okay, so anyone has any more question, comments on that? Should we go? We'll start. Chapter 4, how shall I serve you? Maybe I'll just read this somebody. I have every hope that you can turn yourself into a very good English speaker if you serve the mission to inculcate that novel impression of Lord Chaitanya's teachings to the people in general as well as philosophers and religionists. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in a letter to Srila Prabhupada, December 1936. So basically, looks like he's giving his wish to Srila Prabhupada in this. Okay, Bhavita, you please read.
Yes, Prabhu. In October 1932, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati led a group of hundreds of disciples and pilgrims on a month-long parikrama or circumambulation of the sacred places of Vrindavana. Vrindavana residents and visitors perform parikrama by following the old dry bed of the Yamuna River and circumambulating the Vrindavan area, stopping at the places where Krishna performed his pastimes when he roamed in Vrindavana 5,000 years ago. Abhay had wanted to attend Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's parikrama but could not because of his work. Nevertheless, on the 20th day of the pilgrimage, he travelled from Allahabad, intent on seeing Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati again and hoping to join the parikrama party at Kosi, just outside Vrindavana, at least for a day. The parikrama Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had organized was one of the biggest ever seen in Vrindavana. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Actually, I had to leave. No, you're disturbing me. Please go. Sorry, Prabhu. The parikrama Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had organized was one of the biggest ever seen in Vrindavana. By engaging so many people, he was using the parikrama as a method of mass preaching. Even as early as 1918, when he had first begun his missionary work, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's specific contribution had been his emphasis on preaching. Prior to his advent, the Vaishnavas had generally avoided populated places and they had performed their worship in holy, secluded places like Vrindavana. Even when they had traveled to preach, they would maintain the simple mode of the impoverished mendicant. The Goswami followers during Lord Chaitanya's time had lived in Vrindavana underneath trees, one night under one tree, the next night under another. So, to summarize, here they are talking about how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati ji, he had led hundreds of disciples and pilgrimages on parikrama. Parikrama is nothing but going around. It's a month-long parikrama. That is very interesting because all of them would do a parikrama by following the uh, old dry bed of the Yamuna River, and then they are circumambulating the Vrindavana area, and they stop at all the places where Krishna performed his pastimes. And yeah, this was a very big parikrama, and Abhay wanted to go attend this parikrama, but he could not because he was busy with his work. And yeah, even though he could not go on the parikrama, he still joined on the 20th day of the pilgrimage. He traveled from Allahabad, and then hoping that he could join the parikrama party at Kosi. It was just outside Vrindavana, at least for a day. He wanted to be with them at least for one day. He wanted to experience that, even though he did not have time for the month-long parikrama. And yeah, and here in the second paragraph, they're telling us that how this is different from what the Vaishnavas had done earlier. It says that the parikrama it was organized, it was very big, the biggest one ever seen in Vrindavan. And it was like a mass preaching because they're engaging so many people at once. And yeah, before Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's parikrama had started, before his missionary work had started, the Vaishnavas generally avoided populated areas and they were always doing their worship in secluded places, like where nobody was there, where less people were there. Even when they traveled to preach, they maintained the simple mode, like they just used to live under one tree. Please correct me, Prabhu, if I'm wrong. So yeah, that's what I understood. That's how it changed. That's how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta changed the mode of preaching by having so many people, organizing such a big parikrama with so many people.
Yeah, very nice. Month long. I know Maharaj Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he does 2 weeks parikrama now, Vrindavan, following the footsteps. That's good to know, Prabhupada, because his busy life. He could join only one day like that.
After
Yeah,
One
on
day.
one day he joined. Very nice. So should we move to the next? Okay, right. Okay. Who is Prasanti, please?
The Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, whose aim was on preaching worldwide, knew that the renunciation of the Goswamis was not possible for Westerners. Therefore, he wanted to introduce the idea that devotees could even live in a big palatial temple. He had accepted a large donation from a wealthy Vaishnava merchant and in 1930 had constructed a large marble temple in the Bhag Bazar section of Calcutta. In the same year, he had moved, along with many followers, from his small rented quarters at Ultadanga to the impressive new headquarters. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was demonstrating that although a devotee should not spend a cent for his own sense gratification, he could spend millions of rupees for the service of Krishna. While previously Vaishnavas would not have had anything to do with the much merchandised contrivances introduced by the British. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, on the authority of the scripture, was demonstrating a higher understanding. It was Rupa Goswami, the great disciple of Lord Chaitanya, who had written, "One is perfectly detached from all materialistic worldly entanglement, not when one gives up everything, but when one employs everything for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna." This is understood to be perfect renunciation in yoga. If everything is God's energy, then why should anything be given up? If God is good, then his energy is also good. Material things should not be used for one's own sense enjoyment, but they could be and should be used for the service of Krishna. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta wanted to use the most modern printing presses. He wanted to invite worldly people to hear Krishna Kada in gorgeously built temples. And for their preaching, devotees should not hesitate to ride in the best conveyances, wear swain clothes, or live amidst material opulence.
Hmm.
Um, So, in this narration, we see that previously we have seen that they live a very simple life. On contrary, he also shows that we can spend a lot of money, we can use the money, but in service of Krishna. So they built rich temples, and all of them moved um, to a building where they
Bagh
built
Bazaar.
lavishly.
Bagh Bazaar. The temple in Bagh Bazaar
Yeah.
is very uh, very expensive temple. Yeah.
Yeah. So, on contrary, he shows that when it is used for the service of Krishna, it is okay. Why we don't have to renounce everything. We can live in the material things, but without attachment, and use it for the service of Krishna.
Nice, very nice. Vaishnavism is a very simple. They're kind of renunciate mode, but Bhaktasiddhanta Saraswati Thakur brought revolution. Because if you do like that, we will not be able to preach people. It's like no one should drive fast. But so if that applies to police, so police can never catch a thief. So that's the philosophy in one sense. Yeah, we should accept everything for the Krishna service. So he wanted to use. So that's why we understand that Krishna consciousness is not against the technology. It is against the misusing the technology. They're using all this Zoom and everything. They're Krishnizing everything, right? But on the other hand, people can use it for other purpose. So that's the beauty of it. Yeah. Then who is second? Please go ahead.
It was in this spirit that he had constructed the building at Bagh Bazaar and there displayed a theistic exhibition, a series of dioramas assembled from finely finished, painted and dressed clay dolls. Such dolls are a traditional art form in Bengal, but the staging of nearly 100 elaborate displays depicting the Vaishnava philosophy and the pastimes of Lord Krishna had never before been seen. The theistic exhibition created a sensation and thousands attended it daily. In that same year, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had taken about 40 disciples on a parikrama all over India, a tour featuring many public lectures and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's meetings with important men. By 1932, he had 3 presses in different parts of India, printing 6 journals in various Indian dialects. So here it describes about the temple at Bagh Bazaar, about the art there, very theistic exhibition which depicts all the pastimes of Lord Krishna and the Vaishnava philosophy. Like they were a traditional art form which were done with clay, and it was a rare form, but in this temple there were like nearly 100 such displays. And to see this theistic exhibition, almost like every day it would be visited by thousands of people. And in the same year, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati went on a parikrama all over India with 40 of his disciples. And he gave many public lectures and he met with many important men. And by 1932, he had 3 presses in different parts of India where they were printing in various Indian dialects, like 6 journals.
By 1930, he had 3 presses in different parts of India, printing 6 journals. You know, it was a big thing that time. You know, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati really took it, and Prabhupada really took it. Unbelievable. Very nice. Swatimata, Mataji.
In Calcutta, a politician had asked Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati how he could possibly print his Nadia Prakasa as a daily newspaper. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had replied that it was not so amazing if one considered that in Calcutta alone there were almost half a dozen ordinary daily newspapers. Although Calcutta was but one city amongst all the cities of India, India was but one nation amongst many nations on the earth. The earth was but an insignificant planet amidst all the other planets in the universe. This universe was one amongst universes so numerous that each was like a single mustard seed in a big bag of mustard seeds, and the entire material creation was only one small fraction of the creation of God. Nadia Prakasa was not printing the news of Calcutta or the earth, but news from the unlimited spiritual sky, which is much greater than all the material worlds combined. So, if the daily Calcutta newspapers could report limited earthly tidings, then small wonder that Nadia Prakasa could appear daily. In fact, a newspaper about the spiritual world could be printed every moment. Were there not a shortage of interested readers? One of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's publications was in English, The Harmonist, and it advertised the Vrindavana Parikrama of 1932. I can, Prabhu.
I will explain maybe. Okay. So what happened is one politician is asking, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati asked that he will publish his in Nadia Prakash as a daily newspaper. She was amazed. How you can publish it daily? People think what you can talk about God. God for everybody, we don't have to study, we don't have to go to school, anything. They think that God is like a speculative subject matter, there's nothing much to talk. So he was amazed, how can you write daily? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, such a Calcutta, is very tiny, and in front of in this whole world, in front of this whole universe, still we can have so many news we can be printed. So what about the spiritual world, which is so vast? His activities are spiritual activities are vast. So why cannot? In fact, a newspaper about the spiritual world could be printed every moment, where there is not a shortage of interested reader. So basically, that spiritual activities, Krishna's activities are eternal. Unfortunately, people don't know. They think, okay, that's it. Very simple. How can you publish daily newspaper? That's what he was questioning. So again, here says the harmonist advertised the Brindavan Parikrama also. We'll read someone else. Somebody, Swati Mataji, you can read.
Yes, Prabhuji. Circumambulation of Sri Brajamandal. His Divine Grace, Paramahamsa Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, the spiritual head of the Madhava Gaudiya Vaishnava community following Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has been pleased to invite the cooperation of all persons of every nationality, irrespective of caste, creed, color, age, or sex, in the devotional function of circumambulation of the holy sphere of Braja, in the footsteps of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who exhibited the Leela of performing the circumambulation of Sri Braja Mandal during the winter of 1514 AD. When Abhay had heard from the members of Allahabad Gaudiya Matha about the parikrama, he has been fully occupied with his local Pragya pharmacy business and traveling to secure new accounts. But he had calculated how he could join at least for a day or two, and he had fixed his mind on, on again obtaining the darshan of Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati.
Yeah, that's you can read. You can summarize those two. As you can scroll a little up so you can see.
So here, here they are explaining how Siddhanta Bhakti Saraswati Thakur Swami Maharaj has invited everyone in the village, in the cities, irrespective of caste and crew or age or sex, to follow the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and circumambulate the holy Dham, Braja. Just how he's just following the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he has done with in 1514 AD. So when Abhay heard this members of Allahabad Gaudiya Matha, he invited all his friends and all his pharmacy business travelers to to follow the same thing, and he informed them to get the darshan of Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati.
Nice. Vijayanand, you can read, then we can end. Vijayanand, yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Sorry. Srila Prabhupada, I was not initiated at the time of the parikrama, but I had very good admiration for these Gaudiya Math people. They were very kind to me. So I thought, what are these people doing in this parikrama? Let me go. So I meet them at Kosi. The parikrama party traveled with efficient organization. An advanced group bringing all the bedding and tents would go ahead to the next day's location, where they would make camp and set up the kitchen. Meanwhile, the main party, bearing the deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and accompanied by Kirtana singers, would visit the places of Lord Krishna's pastimes and in the evening arrive in camp. The camp was divided into sections and arranged in a semicircle, and pilgrims were assigned to a particular section for the night. In the center were the quarters of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and the quarters of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and deity of Lord Chaitanya, and close by the tents of the sannyasis. There were separate camps for ladies and men. Married couples did not stay together. There were also a volunteer corps of guards who stayed up all night
Hello, yes.
patrolling the area. At that at night, the camp with its hundreds of tents with gas lights and campfires resembled a small town, and local people would come to see, astonished at the arrangements. In the evening, everyone would gather to hear a discourse by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Okay, so this paragraph describes in detail like how a parikrama party will be, and it describes how like it is organized, and like basically it is said like they were having like two kinds of people. Like one is an advanced group who basically takes care of all the beddings and tents, and they go ahead to the next location and have everything ready, the kitchen as well as the camp. And the main party like having the deity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Kirtana singers would visit in the evening basically, so that when they arrive, everything will be set up in the camp. And regarding the organization of the camp also, like there are like multiple sections, and they are arranged in a semicircle, like where pilgrims are assigned like a particular section in the night. And in the center were the quarters of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and the Lord Chaitanya, and close by there were tents for the other sannyasis. And there were also like separate camps for ladies and men, and also they were also having volunteers who will be like awake throughout the night and patrolling for the security of the camp. And also like with lot of people gathered together in a single place, it looks like a small town of people having lights and all. And in the evening, everyone will gather to hear a discussion by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So this is how the parikrama party and the organization will be happening.
What a wonderful parikrama, isn't it? Anyone been to any parikrama?
Prabhu, I have not been to parikrama, but actually when we're reading about all this, I realized that my brother-in-law, he goes to a parikrama every year to Vrindavan. And whenever he goes, he tells us what's happening there. And this is exactly what happens with him too. There are
Nice.
volunteers, people who go and set up everything before, and then and then they do preaching during evening times, and they visit all the places where Krishna does pastimes. But I don't think it's a month-long thing. I think they wrap it up in 7 days. I don't know how, but
Yeah, it used to be 10 days. Now I think 7 days, 7
Yeah.
days or 10 days. But yeah, thank you. You're fortunate. Your brother-in-law is doing, now you're going to India. When you must always mark your calendar to go to parikrama now. It's a great thing. We're
yes,
very
Prabhu.
fortunate to have this. Everybody also should aspire to attend. Spiritual life also is called laulya. Laulya means one must aspire for it. Like the other day I showed AJ say immediately, "Oh, I want to go to GV." So it's called aspiration. The one who is not inspired and aspiring for this then will not grow. Spiritual life is always full of aspiration, actually. Spiritual aspirations. Soul is not like dull, it always desires. So we should always have spiritual aspirations when I will meet. Just like Prabhupada made his point, I want to see. I want to make sure that even though I'm busy, I want to go to meet my spiritual master. I want to see how do they do the parikramas, pilgrimages. Interesting. Prabhupada never knew. His first time he sees the Gaudiya Math's arrangement. And now following Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, I haven't seen Prabhupada doing, because Prabhupada is always busy in preaching You know, so many Prabhupada, the amount of work he had done, no one has done on this earth in short period of time. So at least so his followers, his disciples, they all are doing. Many of the disciples are doing actually. I want to thank you everybody. So from the third chapter, we discussed in brief chapter, how shall I serve you? It seems like Prabhupada is asking to his spiritual master, going to ask him very soon. This chapter also going to be a little big, but I hope everyone is enjoying so far. So Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur hosts the largest pilgrimage first in Vrindavan, a month, but Prabhupada could join only for a day. And but Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur, he did not want to compromise any of the thing. You know, they're just saying that don't use any Western thing, don't use any modern thing, live simple. But he did not compromise. He wanted to use everything, even if it's British made. He wanted to use in Krishna's service. He built a big temple at Bagh Bazaar, very high class and favorable for Western people. And also all these dioramas and everything was there. He established his father Sajjana Toshani, in a magazine in 3 different languages. I'm thinking Hindi, Bengali, and English. English is called Harmonist. He did it. Then also Prabhupada, the politician asked, how can you have so much of material to print? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, spiritual life is unlimited. You can print every moment. Just like we have so many books, we don't have time to read. Can you believe? Every day you keep reading, but never gets over. And we have millions of books. We still have more. Then in 1514 AD, again Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he conducted this parikrama. That's the description we are hearing, that how Prabhupada wanted to see how they are doing the parikrama. He wanted to make sure that at least once I would like to see. And this is the description, we all read it. Any comments? Everyone is having good time? Do you like it?
Yes, Prabhupada.
Yeah. Thank you. So we will end it here. I'm very grateful for everybody joining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Have a good night.
Hare Krishna.